Well, after a bunch of character-driven episodes, The Walking Dead finally gives us the episode that we have all been waiting for. Hey guys, Season 7, Episode 7, Sing Me a Song, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode for a couple reasons. One, because the fact that I knew we were going to get back to the main story, and I really have enjoyed the main story. I just think it's been really a slow burn lately, but also because it was 90 minutes, and I was very reluctant about that. Like, that was both a positive and a negative for me, because the last 90-minute episode, literally nothing happened. Like, it was just Negan walking around Alexandria for an hour and a half. But that was not the case this episode. This by far was my favorite episode of the season. I really did love this episode overall. We found out a lot more about the Saviors in this episode. We had a lot of Negan and Carl conversations. We got to see why Negan doesn't want to kill certain people. And I think just in general really does show how great Jeffrey D. Morgan really is as Negan. I know a lot of people haven't liked him and said they turned into a cartoon or whatever. But I thought he worked really well here. I really did love what they did with him, but let's just get into this episode because there actually is a lot to talk about. A lot did happen in this episode, and I want to get right into it. So Michonne's walking down the road, and we finally get to see what she saw. She approached the pile of burnt mattresses. She's whistling a tune on the empty road, and two walkers come after her. She casually just kills them both, and again, just shows how the walkers aren't really a threat. But she sits her bag down, a radio's inside. Immediately after, she picks up a walker, drags him into the woods, leaving a trail of blood and her bag behind. So right off the bat, I think that was a pretty good start. And I think it definitely does show that there's definitely some larger party at play here. But Rick and Aaron then wake up in a trailer. Rick turns his radio on. I like that Rick and Aaron are working together because we really have not gotten to see Aaron in a long time. This is definitely the longest we've seen Aaron in like a very long time. I don't really think he's played that substantial of a role since really that episode in Season 5. But Rick turns his radio on, silence. When Aaron opens the trailer door, he says he didn't see that last night. They both look into the distance, and two Saviors are sitting in a truck and talking about their weapons inventory. And as they leave, we see Carl and Jesus appear from behind boxes inside the truck, and Jesus begins exploring the boxes as the truck is moving. And after noticing a statue, he begins to leave a trail of maple syrup out of the back of the truck, and Jesus thinks that they should bail out of the truck now so they can scope it out from the distance, because again, they're both there to kill Negan. That's why they're going there, and Carl hesitates, but Jesus jumps out of the truck. He looks back, and Carl waves him and stays in the truck. He grabs a machine gun, begins to load it. Negan can be heard outside talking to the men. This was actually quite an intense scene because you really don't know if Carl's actually going to do it, but Carl is hiding and hiding inside. The men start unloading. Carl begins to open fire on the men. Carl comes out of his truck with the gun raised, says he only wants Negan, and Negan appears, says he's adorable. He says Carl scares him, and Dwight tackles Carl to the ground. Daryl can be seen watching from a distance, again, kind of powerless, and Negan asks to help Carl up. He calls the boy his guest, says he's going to show him around, and he actually doesn't kill him. He instead wants to show him how the Saviors are going to work, and the full Walker offensive sanctuary can be seen. The massive building is unveiled behind it, and I think it's just a great start to what we eventually get here, which is essentially an hour and a half of us finding out more about the Saviors. So, most of this episode really is just Negan and Carl one-on-one. It honestly was probably some of the most compelling stuff we've had in a while. I actually thought that us getting inside Carl's head, I know a lot of people don't like that character, but I thought they did some really good stuff in this episode. Like, honestly, I really did understand where Carl was coming from here, and I thought, for the most part, they did a really good job with him. I definitely really did enjoy it, but Negan's trying to help Carl up, but he's being really stubborn. Negan says he has the same stink eye as Rick and tells him he needs to follow him. Negan starts talking to Daryl, threatening him, and as he reaches back for Carl, he helps him up. They start to go inside, and Carl asks what Negan will do to him. He thinks he's just going to straight up and kill him, but Negan tells him not to be scared of anything because it's actually disappointing. He tells Carl that it will be a surprise, and he leads him inside. And as they enter the sanctuary, Negan whispers, "Check this out." He approaches a ledge, and all of these people below kneel. And of course, you get the sense that all these people are in fact part of the sanctuary. They are saviors. They have, allegiance to Negan. He says they got some great stuff on the run. Everyone gets fresh vegetables at dinner, which, of course, this is something we've seen, that if you are in fact loyal to Negan, Negan will give you the best anything that he can find. And He tells Carl that they all respect him, and Carl is definitely very impressed. He had no idea that Negan was this loyal, and I really do like the way this episode changes Carl's perception of Negan, definitely. Not that Carl likes Negan, but I think it's more he kind of respects him after this, you definitely do see. But Rosita and Eugene are walking out of Alexandria, and Rosita says they aren't going to find anything for Negan. Spencer approaches and tells her that she's wrong for fighting this, but she won't back down, and Spencer really, I mean, that's the only thing that kind of annoyed me here. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? You need to just stay loyal to Negan, because if you're not loyal to him, then you're going to die. But Spencer says this is all Rick's fault. Rosita puts him back in his place. She then walks out of the gates, and this very well set up what ends up happening with Spencer at the end of this episode, which we'll get into, but back at Sanctuary, Negan takes Carl into a room full of well-dressed women, and he encourages the boy to take a look at his wives. Negan walks away with Sherry, pours a drink, and Negan asks what happened between Amber and Mark, and Sherry says it's none of his business. Negan says Mark skipped duties to be with Amber, and he needs to know if it's true. And again, these are all Negan's women. Like, they're not anyone else's, they're Negan's, and when Sherry says to take it easy on Amber, Negan says he would never hurt one of them. He walks across the room, he puts a beer in Carl's hand, and he then walks over to talk to Amber. He tells her he doesn't want anyone to be there that doesn't want to be. She can leave, but he says she can't cheat on him. He asks if she wants to go back to Mark and working for points, but she says she wants to stay. He asks Amber if she knows what that means, and she says yes. So Negan walks over, asks Sherry to get Carson for him. He kisses her before letting her leave, and as they kiss, Dwight and Daryl enter. Daryl and Carl then share a look, and Dwight looks at Sherry. Negan takes some food from the plate that Daryl is holding, and just that one look that Daryl and Carl have, I mean, it really does show that Daryl does want to be on their side. He just really has no power over Negan, and Negan asks Carl to take the tray from Daryl. Daryl speaks, Negan fires back at him and tells Dwight to fire up the furnace. He takes Carl with him and leaves, and Sherry begins to cry as everyone exits. So you really do see that Sherry, I think in general, still really does love Dwight. You know, we know that Negan stole Sherry from Dwight, but there's really nothing that Sherry can do. If, you know, Negan claims something, you kind of just have to go along with it, because if you don't, you know what's going to happen. So there really is no power that Negan has over everyone, because everyone's just too afraid of Negan. He's too much of a threat right now for anyone to really want to come after him, and that's really something with Sherry. I think definitely Sherry's going to be someone who's going to rise up against Negan eventually, but right now she's just kind of weak, and she doesn't really have the skills or the army to do it, mainly because everyone's just so loyal to Negan, and because Negan has given all these people such a great life, no one really wants to rise up against him. That's definitely something you do see here. So Rick and Aaron then approach this gate, they hop over it, and the sign on the gate said that only trouble was beyond it, so we don't really know what that's about. But Spencer and Gabriel then driving down a road and talking. Gabriel says that thoughts are just thoughts, actions are what matter in the end. Spencer responds that he hates Rick and he's a bad leader, and Gabriel says he's not perfect, but he is a man that finds his way. He says the deaths weren't all Rick's fault, and despite what Spencer says, he says Rick helps him look to the future, and Spencer says there's really no future with Rick in charge. He says he hopes that Rick doesn't make it back, and Gabriel tells him to stop the car, and Gabriel's the second person in the episode to put Spencer in his place, which I was happy about. I like that no one really was on Spencer's side, because how can you not be loyal to Rick after this? I mean, yeah, obviously, you know, he's used to Rick being the leader, and he doesn't like that Rick isn't trying to take Negan down, but again, it's better to just go along what Negan is doing than take him down. There's really no way to challenge him at this point, and basically, he exits the car to go home. So Spencer gets out of the car, he looks around, he then takes off into the woods. He discovers a walker in a tree stand strapped to a tree, and again, there's a really good foreshadowing here of what ends up happening. We'll get into that. But Negan and Carl then enter this glamorous bedroom. Carl asks if all the women are Negan's wives, and he says yes. And here's where we get to what most of this episode is, which is a very long discussion between Negan and Carl, him realizing how everything works. And Negan says, why follow the same old rules? He wants to get to know Carl better and tells Carl he's smarter than he thinks. He thinks that Carl finding him was incredible because he can't really let it slide. So Negan tells Carl to take off his eye bandage. It's his punishment for killing two of his men after refusing once. So he takes off his hat and bandage, and he reveals his wound by moving his hair. And Negan says it's no wonder he covers it up, that it's gross as hell, and Carl begins to cry a bit. And Negan actually apologizes here. He actually does feel bad for what he did. He says it's easy to forget he's just a kid and that he was just screwing around. What I liked about it is that it does show that Negan does in fact have a soul. Like, he's not completely heartless. He genuinely does, I don't know if he cares or if he's just trying to cater to Carl and make him feel better, but Fat Joey enters the room carrying Lucille, saying that Negan left her outside, and Negan tells Carl he never to cover up his eye because no one will mess with him looking like that. And yeah, I definitely would agree. I mean, if you see someone without an eye and you know what they've been through, definitely you don't want to mess with them. But he asks Joey if he treated Lucille like a lady. He says yes, and after making a joke, he kicks Fat Joey out, and Negan tells Carl that's how men mess with each other, and Rick should be teaching him that. And Negan asks Carl what he does for him, and then he asks him to sing him a song, which is what the title from the episode, but he says he wants something in return for Carl killing his men. He wants Carl to sing a song, but Carl can't really think of anything, and I didn't really know if the actor could sing, but Negan points Lucille at his head. Carl begins singing. It isn't too good, but at the same time, you can tell that Carl's really scared, and he doesn't really know if he should be singing, and he sings "You Are My Sunshine," and Negan swinging the bat in the background and tells Carl not to let him be a distraction. And when the song is finished, Negan says that Lucille loves being sung to almost as much as she loves bashing in brains. And just the entire scene, you really have no idea what's going to happen. Like, I honestly thought that Negan was just going to bash in his brains right then and there. Just the fact he kept moving, drawing his bat near Carl was really intimidating. They did a really good job at showing that while Negan is kind of softening up, he still is, thinking, he's not going to think twice about killing someone. Like, when Negan wants someone dead, he will in fact kill him. I think it's something they very well illustrate this season. So Negan asks Carl where his mother is. Carl is silent, obviously because he's not going to tell Negan all that happened to Lori and everything. It's really hard to tell, and Negan asks if he saw it happen. Carl says he shot her before she turned, and again, this is really something that Carl doesn't like to admit, but something that he has in fact had to do. And he tells Carl to get up and that the iron should be ready. And remember how long it took Carl to get over Lori's death? Like, just remember how long that took. Just having Carl having to remember that really was kind of heartbreaking. I really did feel bad for the kid here, and Dwight stares at the iron in the fire. Negan enters the giant room. A man is in the middle of everyone tied to a chair. Negan says that this will be hard to watch, but rules are necessary, and he says they can't be savers without following rules. There's always a cost for breaking them, and if you break any rules, you get the iron. The camera stays on Dwight for a moment, and he hides his face, and as everyone rises to their feet, Negan approaches the man in the chair. Dwight gets the hot iron out of the fire. Negan takes it. He says sorry to Mark, but it is what it is. Negan then approaches the man in the chair. He puts the iron in his face, and everyone watches. The man then passes out. He pulls the iron away, tearing his skin off with it. I mean, probably one of the most graphic things we've seen. He says that Mark pissed himself and tells Daryl to clean it up, and the way that Daryl's kind of like a slave right now is kind of hard to watch. But before Negan leaves, he tells the doctor to do his thing. He tells the crowd that everything is square, and Mark's face should be a reminder about the rules, and just showing them that he really does mean business, and when he wants something done, it's gonna get done. He'll be fine with you unless you fuck with him, and that's something that Mark did do. So Negan takes Carl away, saying they need to figure out what to do with him, and in the woods, Spencer's trying to take down the tree stand that the walker's attached to. He gets the bow from the man, but his body falls as well. Spencer takes everything from the men's pockets, including a handwritten note, and a foreign language is written on it. He puts it in his pockets, and I am pretty sure that they're trying to foreshadow that Spencer's going to die. I really think that Spencer is going to die very soon. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't die by the end of next week's episode, because especially someone who is openly hating Rick. I mean, if you're someone that's hating Rick, definitely I definitely think that he probably is going to get, what's coming to him, definitely. I think that Spencer probably, if he doesn't die in next week's episode, he will in fact die this season. I just don't see him lasting that much longer, but either way, we'll have to see. Rosita and Eugene then enter the factory where he was planning to make bullets, and he says he didn't want to come back and that he won't make any, and he says that he's really been thinking about it. Like, this is something that he genuinely has been thinking about, and he doesn't want to endanger Rosita by helping her kill Negan, because, at the same time, while she wants to kill, Negan, he doesn't really want her to participate in it, because he knows that she's really doesn't have the army or anything like that, and he says that Abraham was right. There are too many saviors, and they're too hard to take on. And Rosita says he needs to make her a bullet, and for her and for Abraham. She says that he is weak, coward, and the only reason he's alive is because people feel sorry for him. And I honestly would agree with her on that. I mean, we've seen throughout the course of the show, Eugene is not at all who he thought who we thought he was. Remember how in the beginning we always thought that Eugene was this scientist, and then we had that reveal that he wasn't. And I feel like ever since then, Rosita's never been able to look at him at the same way. She's always seen him as just a petulant, child who said he's one thing, but he's really not. But she says, for once, do something useful, make her a bullet. So he begins working on the ammo, and the way that she has power against him, I really do like seeing. And especially in a world without Abraham and Eugene, that dynamic has always been so essential. Now seeing Eugene following Rosita's orders, one, is giving her more to do. Two, I like that Eugene, is in fact, listening to her and not is kind of outnumbered in this world. It's definitely gonna be interesting to see how things go between Rosita and Eugene and how long this dynamic really does last. Because I want to hope that Rosita is gonna rise up against Negan, but at the same time, we know that Negan isn't gonna die till next season, so I don't really know if this is really gonna work, but we'll have to see. So she's in a stairwell. Dwight comes to meet her. They share a cigarette just like they did before, and Dwight tells her not to feel bad for selling Mark and Amber out. It's a really nice scene because, again, we remember these two were in fact supposed to be married and that he genuinely does love her. Dwight claims he doesn't sleep at night anymore. She says the decision they made was for the both of them, but Dwight says she's only standing on other people's backs. Dwight says they weren't doing anything, and Sherry agrees before walking away. So I really do feel bad for the both of them. I mean, this is clearly a couple that just want a normal life, and they've really been thrown into this world of crime and world of hate, and they really are not happy about it, obviously. They want to get out of there, but Negan and Carl are sitting in his room. Carl has to put the bandage back on, and Negan tells him he can't. Carl wants to know why Negan hasn't killed him, Rick, or Daryl, and yeah, that's a question that we've all been asking. Why is he just letting these people live? And I like the way that Negan openly explained why he's saving all of them. He says that Daryl's going to be a great soldier for him. Rick gets him great stuff. He said it's more fun and productive to break Carl instead of kill him, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to break Carl. He wants to remind him of all the shit he did, because Carl thinks he can take down Negan, and Negan wants to show him just how much he can do that. And Negan asks Carl what he should do with him. He can't let him go, so what should he do? And Carl says that Negan should jump out of the window so he doesn't have to kill him, and Carl says Negan can't kill any of them, and that's why he hasn't. That he simply cannot kill them, that they're just smarter than him, and they're there to outsmart him. And I think Carl does kind of have a point there. I mean, if Negan wanted to kill them, he would have killed them, but the fact that he can't kill them, there's definitely a reason why, especially Rick. We've already seen that Rick is kind of outsmarted Negan, and again, we had that scene in episode 4 where you can tell that Negan's kind of scared of Rick, definitely. Is he scared of Carl? No, but Carl does have, I think, the mind that Rick does, and he's been trained with Rick for so long, and he knows the way that Rick works, that that I think is another reason why he can't really kill Carl. But Negan tells him they're going for a ride, and as they get in the truck, Jesus is hiding on top. Daryl tells Negan he better not hurt Carl, and I like the way that Daryl openly told Negan not to hurt him. Like, Daryl finally was outspoken here, and Negan has Dwight put him back in the cell. Negan says he's taking Carl home, and when the truck pulls away, Jesus is no longer on the roof, so we don't know where Jesus went. Did he go back to Maggie and Sasha and their whole thing, or, the Hilltop group, or did he go on his own? We don't really know, but I think we're definitely going to know by next week. We'll have to see. But Daryl's in his cell. He hears someone outside at the door. A note is slid to him from the other side. It says, "Go now," and imagine a key were attached to the note. So who gave him this note? What's really that all about? We don't really know. We'll have to see. But a truck then pulls up to a pile of walkers in the road. A woman gets out. She draws her gun, examines them. Michonne comes out of nowhere with a sword to the woman's head. She asks the woman to drop the gun and her knife. Michonne orders the woman to take her to Negan, and she puts a gun to the woman's head, gets in the truck. The woman slams on the brakes. A fight ensues. Michonne wins and again asks the woman to take her to Negan. So I am going to assume that Michonne is saying this because she wants to kill Negan. I think she's someone else that thinks that she could, and I think she could. I think she has the army to do it. She's not going to do it, obviously, because again, like I said, he's not getting killed till next season. But I do like the way that Michonne is in fact leading this group. I like the way that she isn't backing down, but at the same time, I'm worried for Michonne's safety next week. So Negan bangs Lucille on Olivia's door, enters with Carl behind him, and I straight up thought that Olivia was going to die, but Carl tells Olivia that Annette is fine. He asks where Rick is. Olivia says that Rick will be gone for a couple of days. Negan makes fun of Olivia, and she begins to cry. He says she doesn't have a sense of humor, and Negan turns back around, asks her name, and after she responds, Negan apologizes for being rude. He's going to be there for a while, because again, she said her name was Negan, and he's going to be there for a while. He says it would be enjoyable to have sex with her while he waits for Rick, and again, he looks at every woman as sex objects, as we know, and she slaps him in the face, says he's about 50% more into her now. And Negan says he's going to wait for Rick and that Olivia needs to make lemonade for him and Carl. He says to take her time and make it good. He then asks Carl to take him on the grand tour. And a compilation that begins, we see Negan exploring Carl's house with his shoes off, and It's really weird to see. He's entering Judith's room, Negan picks her up, and this is everything that Rick tried to keep away from Negan. And it's just showing that even Rick's property is now Negan's property. Like, Rick's house is not Rick's house anymore. Even Judith is Negan's. And he laughs as he holds her, and it's just kind of, it's such a sight to behold, seeing Negan have Judith and, not having Rick be able to keep her safe anymore. It's everything that Rick hasn't wanted, and just seeing that reaction was just really sad to watch and really kind of hard to watch. But Rick and Aaron then appear out of the woods. They come up on a trailer and a sign. The sign is from a man who lives in the property and tells exactly what he's armed with. The bottom of the sign says that the only way to read that far would be without being shot, and it's if the man is already dead. So Rick and Aaron go further. They see a lake with a houseboat in the middle, and there are walkers all over the water, and Rosita then so we don't really know what that's all about, but Rosita then examines a bullet, and she thanks Eugene. She says she's sorry, but Eugene claims that she's lying, that she's not really sorry. He says he'd like to go back to awkward silence as they return home, because, again, these two really haven't talked that much before, but Spencer pulls up behind them as they get close. He says he found food, and there was plenty in the car, and he hands the note to Eugene, says it was written in Latin, and it was the details of the supply cache that the man had hidden, and we don't really know what that's about, but a savior opens the gate, and the three notice that Negan is there, so they are, in fact, about to go to where Negan is, and he then sits on the porch with Carl. He holds Judith. He tells Carl he likes it there. He might have to stay. He says maybe it is stupid to keep him and Rick alive. Maybe he should just kill him and sell him to their home. He kisses Judith, and basically we're realizing that Negan is about to become more powerful than ever, and that this is now his home, and that Rick and Carl are more in danger than ever, and that is the way this episode ends. Really crazy really crazy stuff overall, but let's just get into this episode where I think this is going to go next week. So overall, this is what I wanted in a 90-minute episode. This episode to me had to be 90 minutes. I understood why it was 90 minutes. I thought we got some really good stuff explored with the Saviors. They really did show the power that Negan has over everyone, and really how much of a dictator he really is. Like, Negan, like I said, is really someone who is very skilled. He knows what he's doing. He's very calculated, and you can tell why Negan is the ruler of this community, why he has such a hold against everyone. Now, the big question is next week, where we're going to go, because Negan can't die. Like I said, I didn't say it, I don't know if I said this, but they announced last week that Jeffrey Dean Morgan is going to be around at least till season 8, so there's no way that he's dying this season, and I'm fine with that. I really am. I don't need Negan every episode. I don't need Negan dead by this season. In fact, I actually really like Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I think he's adding this creepiness to the show that we really haven't had before, and he's adding this, he's such a powerhouse too. Like, he's fun to watch, even though Negan is a bit cartoony at points. I think he's fun to watch, and he's such a big actor, and he's so good at what he does that I just want more and more. Like, I just don't want to see them kill Negan yet. Like, Negan can die in season 8, just not yet. I don't want to see Negan die just yet, but the big question is, where is that group going? The group with, like, Spencer and Rosita and Eugene. Are they going to Negan? Are they going to kill him? Because I know Rosita thinks that she can kill Negan, but I don't really think that's going to work. I think she's going to get what's coming to her. And how long is her relation with Eugene going to go? Because it seems that she has power against Eugene. I like the way she's telling him that, look, you're only here because we feel bad for you. But, if you don't obey us, then we're going to kill you. And I think this is something that she's going to maybe ask Negan to do. I don't know if Eugene's going to be a sacrifice to Negan, but I could definitely see it happening. But again, I don't really know this is going to go. I think Negan might try to make Rosita one of his women, but I don't really think after killing Abraham she's going to comply, but we'll have to see. That's definitely going to be very interesting. Now, as far as Rick and Aaron, I don't really know what's going on with them. What this houseboat is and the lake and everything. We don't really know what that's about, but that definitely is going to be very interesting, where exactly they went. Where did Jesus go? We know that Jesus was there, and then he just kind of disappeared, so where exactly did Jesus go? I don't know if we're going to join up with Jesus next week, and we're going to see where he went, or if we're not going to know till February. The Walking Dead does this a lot, where they like to tease things to us, so I don't know where Jesus went exactly, but we'll have to see. It does look like next week we are going to join back up with Morgan and Carol, which I'm happy about. I really have loved that storyline with Ezekiel. I understand why we haven't seen it. They've been trying to pace things out a little bit slower, so that way things aren't full speed ahead, and that way there is still something to build on, which I've actually been very happy about. I know I complained about last week. It's not really a problem. It's just a different kind of storytelling I'm not really used to from this show. But I do like that they are changing things up. And 7 seasons in, they still are finding ways to reinvent the show. And that's something that I definitely really have appreciated. More into that next week. I'll definitely get into that when we talk about the season so far. But the other big question is, what is this note that Daryl got? What is that all about? The note that says, go now, who sent it to him? What's going on there? And is it something that he should trust? Because my biggest worry is that Daryl's going to listen to this note, he's going to try to break free, and then he's going to get himself killed. I mean, there are, in fact, leaked pictures of people saying that Daryl does, in fact, die in the mid-season finale, and I'm hoping that's not true, but because the fact the finale's 90 minutes, and it seems that Negan can't die, someone's going to die next week. I definitely think someone's going to die. I don't know who it's going to be. I'm hoping it's not Daryl, but the fact that Negan is starting to think, maybe I shouldn't just keep you alive, now is making me think that maybe he will kill Daryl. But either way, we'll have to see. That's going to be very interesting. I think Spencer's dying next week. I think without a doubt, especially the fact not that he's just disobedient to Negan. He's disobedient to Rick. He's not listening to what Rick is saying. There are so many people who are against him right now, and so many people want him dead. So I really think that Spencer is going to get himself killed. And I mean, he's really just a disposable character right now. Like, I don't understand why Spencer has still been on this show. He should have died last season. He's the most annoying character since Ron, definitely. Like, I definitely think he's been the most annoying. So I really hope that Spencer does die. I feel like since all the Alexandria characters died, he really is not a place on this show, and I think Spencer's going to die very, very soon. I don't really know why he's still on the show, but either way, we'll have to see. I really did feel bad for Dwight in this episode, because you can tell he genuinely does want a life with Sherry. He genuinely does care about her. He doesn't like what's become of her, and he doesn't like the way that Negan is manhandling her and doing all these terrible things, because again, Negan sees these women as sex objects, and Dwight wants to do anything to break her away from that, and it's just really sad to see, because I actually am really rooting for Dwight and Sherry together. I actually really do like these two, and I wish that Negan wouldn't have such a hold over her, but again, there's really nothing Dwight can do in that situation. You know, Negan called her, Negan claimed her, and there's really nothing that can be done there, but I really am upset with the way that's going for Dwight, because again, I really do like those two together, but again, Negan's kind of put that to shit, so we'll have to see what happens there, because that's going to be interesting as well. And then Carl, we know that Carl is trying to get away. We know that Negan said he's going to try to keep him alive, but now that he's saying, maybe I shouldn't keep you alive, I don't really know what Negan's going to do. We don't really know where Negan's head is at, and that's the thing that's scary, is that we don't really know what Negan wants. It's not really about what's best for them to survive. It's more about what Negan wants. What does Negan think the best thing is for Carl? I don't think Carl's going to die, but I do think it's interesting the way that he introduced Carl to all this stuff, and he's going to try to take over and essentially be the new Rick. Like, I think that's really what he's trying to do. He's trying to be the new Rick. He's trying to kind of be a new father figure for Carl and try to be a different kind of father that Carl hasn't really had before. And I get why he's doing that. I get that he wants him to fight for himself and, learn how to fend for himself and things like that. But at the same time, I mean, Rick is his father, and he can't really replace himself as his father, so I don't really know where that's going to go. And then how is Ezekiel really going to fit into all this? We know that we've joined up with all these groups. I'm thinking we're going to combine all of that next week between the Oceanside community and the Kingdom and the Hilltop. I think all of that is going to come to fruition next week. I don't know if it's all going to combat against Negan. I don't know if that's all of this is going to turn out, because again, Jeffrey Dean Morgan can't die, but I do think we are going to see pretty much everyone next week. The fact we have a 90-minute episode, I think it's the perfect chance to just kind of cover the basis for the season, focus on everyone we've seen so far, and then set up where the second half is going to go, because I really don't know where the second half of the season is going to go. I think it might be the first season where we really don't switch locations. I could really see that happening. It didn't really happen in season 6, and I don't think it's really going to happen in season 7 either, so we'll have to see. I don't know, maybe everyone's going to go to the Kingdom, maybe everyone's going to go to the Hilltop. I honestly don't know, but either way, Negan does in fact have control over all of them. And that's really what's going to be interesting to see. This was really a game of, I've heard a lot of people say this is really a season of chess pieces, and I think we're really about to see who the real king of it all is. Is it Negan? Is it Rick? Is it Ezekiel? I think Negan wants to think that he's the king, but in reality, we've seen that there are definitely parties against him, and there are definitely other, threats to combat against that prove that he is not, in fact, the king. But either way, guys, that's it for this video. Really enjoyed this episode. I actually really am getting into this season, I have to say. today. But I will see you guys next week, which will be for the season finale of Westworld, which, wow, is there a lot to talk about with that. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.